So thank you everybody for inviting us to speak with you tonight about a topic that both Kylie and I are very, very passionate about. And we're going to be talking tonight about weight management and immune function. And it's so important for obvious reasons right now. Here in Ontario, Canada, where Kylie and I live, we've started to flatten the curve a little bit. We are starting phase one of gradually reopening some things. So it's been a bit of a relief for us here in the last week, but we still need to be hyper cautious of taking care of our immune systems because, as I'm sure you guys all know, this news is changing every day. We're learning more and more about this virus. This might have a second spike in this particular wave, or we might get a second wave in the fall, winter. They're anticipating as this virus might mutate. So it is so important that we give ourselves the knowledge to empower ourselves to really protect our immune systems. And one of the ways you can do this is by maintaining a proper weight, which might sound a little strange, but we will explain that as the PowerPoint goes on. But it really is important to have a proper weight according to SCI guidelines, and the very specific guidelines that we're going to explain to you tonight. But again, obviously, it is so important right now because of the threat of COVID-19 to take care of our immune systems. But as we're going to explain, for anybody with a spinal cord injury, you really need to be taking care of your immune systems all the time, any year, all year round. So this afternoon, for you guys in California, Kylie and I are going to be talking about certain foods, nutrients, and supplements to support a healthy weight and simultaneously support your immune function. So a little medical disclaimer here, we are going to be discussing some supplements, and it's really important before anybody starts any kind of new supplement that you consult with your physician first, because with some supplements there are interactions, contraindications. So Kylie and I really stress that please consult with your healthcare provider first before starting any new ones. And also we're talking about maintaining your health, maintaining your immune system. We also want to stress that having an optimal immune system is wonderful. It's not going to necessarily guarantee though or prevent you from getting COVID-19. But if you do get sick with this virus or any other virus or bacteria, you want to make sure you have the best immune system possible to help yourself fight it. All right, so what we are going to be going through in the next 45 minutes is talking about spinal cord injury and our increased risk to infection, facts on weight gain following spinal cord injury, the relationship between increased weight and decreased immune function, nutrition recommendations for weight loss, supplement recommendations for weight loss. We're going to talk about a client case, and also Franklin had asked that we also give some recommendations for weight gain, because that is an issue for many people with spinal cord injuries. Often they're underweight, so we're going to talk about that too. All right, so a little background about Kylie and I and how we got involved with this specific area of nutrition. As Franklin said, we're both nutritionists whose practices focus on neurological conditions, spinal cord injuries, brain injuries up here in Canada. And we both have personal experience in connection to spinal cord injury, which is what drew us to practicing in this area. So, I'm my age now, I sustained a spinal cord injury over 30 years ago in a car accident. And very quickly, I started to develop secondary health complications that went along with it, like neuropathic pain, weight gain, tendonitis. And Kylie, her nephew, sustained a C3-4 quadriplegia when he was just 1.5 years old. And he soon after developed chronic respiratory infections, which is also very common. So Kylie and I, we did go to the same school. We knew each other from a distance. And we were both out practicing, and we had both independently been trying to look for research on spinal cord injury and looking at ways to address some of these secondary health complications that me and my clients were experiencing and Kylie's nephew was experiencing. And so we'd get together and have coffee and share notes, and we'd try and just look for information specific to spinal cord injury. And disappointingly, what we found is, despite the prevalent consequences of all these secondary health complications, there was so limited information on this. So we thought there should be a book on this, and there wasn't. So then we came together and said, well, we're going to write one. And so that's exactly what we did. And this is the book we wrote, Eat Well, Live Well with Spinal Cord Injury and Other Neurological Conditions. And it came out, I think, about 7 years ago, right, Kylie? 7 years ago?
I say.
And we just knew that if we're having trouble finding this information, other people were. And we just wanted to load it up with as much research, information, and make it as easily accessible as possible to healthcare providers and family members. And our hope is that this information is going to focus attention on the important therapeutic role that nutrition plays in our lives and inspire future research as well. But more importantly, we wrote this book to help empower you to take care of your health in a really easy, cost-effective, and practical way. So this book that we wrote 7 years ago has 16 different chapters. Each chapter focuses on a specific secondary health complication, like bladder infections, for example. So of the 16 chapters, they're all divided into 3 sections. The first section explains what the health condition is, why it develops so easily post-injury, and the factors that contribute to its development. And we give you a really strong understanding of how nutrition can play a role in addressing, preventing, and managing these secondary health complications. The next section in each of the chapters gives you easy to prepare nutrient-dense recipes that include all the nutrients that we talked about in that chapter. And then in the last section, it's a chart, and it gives all the different nutrients, and it gives you a summary of what foods you can find those nutrients in, as well supplement doses, if there's supplements of these nutrients. And we've also listed any contraindications that these supplements might have that you need to be aware of. So moving on to immune system with SCI, statistics demonstrate that having any comorbidity increases our risk of having the COVID-19 virus or any virus, and we often have a worse response to it. And the reason for that is people with spinal cord injury are at very high risk for a multitude of reasons, which I've listed here, and I'll go through each one. Right off the bat, as a direct result of spinal cord injury, our immune systems are compromised. And this has to do with a connection from your body getting a response, that there's an infection going on, and that messaging going to your immune system and to your brain, and then putting it into a fight mode. So that's compromised. Another reason that we are so susceptible to infections is paralyzed, weakened abdominal, intercostal, and diaphragm muscles, which means it has to do with our lungs. If we have weakness or paralysis in these areas, it actually does really negatively affect our ability to clear our lungs and cough that mucus up. Another reason why we're so susceptible is most of us with a spinal cord injury, whether it's complete or incomplete, have decreased mobility. And when you have decreased mobility, you have decreased activation of your lymphatic system. For those of you who may not be familiar with your lymphatic system, it's part of your overall circulatory system. Your lymph system actually mirrors your circulatory system. So your lymph vessels parallel your arteries and veins of your cardiovascular system. And why this is so important to your immune system is your lymph system carries lymph fluid, and that's where your immune system lives. That's where your antibodies are. The other thing the lymph does, as well as house all these immune functions, is it helps clear toxins and waste and destroyed bacteria and viruses into your circulation system, into your blood, so that it can get into your kidneys, get into your liver, and then be excreted. But unlike your cardiovascular system, which has a pump, your heart, to pump the blood around your system, your lymph system does not have a pump. The reason and how your lymph system moves is through muscular contractions, through joints moving. And if you have paralysis, you're not going to have as much movement, which means your lymph isn't moving and clearing a lot of that waste out of your system as effectively as pre-injury. Another reason why we're more susceptible is we're just more exposed, because our hands tend to be very dirty with our wheelchairs or other mobility aids constantly touching surfaces. I know when I'm wheeling around out in the community, yeah, I'm wheeling with my wheels and my rims, but I also push off surfaces. I push off countertops, doors, walls. So I'm constantly exposing my hands potentially to more virus. So I'm being really hyper vigilant now to not do that when I'm out in the community. It's just focus on my wheels and my rims and then wash them really effectively as well. We also know about the 6-foot rule we're all supposed to be keeping from each other, but there is concern, people in wheelchairs, because of our height, our head height being in the chair, that we're more vulnerable to those respiratory droplets coming down. Another increased risk factor is our necessity for a lot of us on caregivers to do our personal care or do meal prep, food prep. And our caregivers are probably out in the community visiting other people who may also be immunosuppressed. And therefore, we're just at risk of being exposed to more people who might have the virus. And another point here is stress. Stress can really decrease your immune function. This might sound strange, but when your body is under any kind of mental, emotional, or physical stress, and when I say physical stress, I mean pain, which a lot of us deal with. When you're under constant stress like that, your fight or flight hormones, like cortisol, are constantly being released. These cause systemic inflammation, and we know inflammation decreases immune function. Reaction there, and stress depletes things like vitamin C, which we all know we need for immune function. Another point is psychological stress suppresses natural killer cells. Natural killer cells are like the policemen that go through our blood system, through our lymph system, and destroy those infected cells and help clean up the viruses. So if we have depression of those natural killer cells, it's another way our immune system is depressed. We also know through many studies that people with SCI tend to have poor diets and experience nutrient deficiencies. This is for many reasons, like change in economic status, just transportation, lack of ability to get out, buy healthy foods, also decreased digestive system, ability to break down, absorb nutrients, and maybe just limited dexterity, the ability to prepare healthy meals. That can make us deficient in vitamins and minerals like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin C, magnesium, zinc, and essential fatty acids. All of these things are essential to our immune system, and we tend to be deficient in them. And lastly, when you are deficient in a lot of those nutrients I talked about, it can lead to the development of multiple secondary health complications, which I'm sure many of you sitting here have experienced. Things like pressure sores, low bone density, arthritis, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and weight gain, obesity, which we're talking about today. All of these secondary health complications put additional burden on our system for nutrients, which means it's going to impair our immune function. And it's studies show that the average person with a spinal cord injury living in the community experiences 7 different secondary health complications a year. That's a lot of extra burden on your system for calories and for nutrients. So you really want to make sure your system's fed well all year round, whether there's a pandemic or not. All right. And now we're over to Kylie.
Thanks, Jo. So secondary health complications, obviously weight gain is one of the very common secondary health complication that individuals with spinal cord injury have. And the research shows that 65% of people with SCI are overweight and 1/3 are obese. And the research also shows that body fat percentage is 8 to 18% higher in people with individuals with a spinal cord injury than those of the able-bodied population. So it's definitely an issue with this population. I keep meaning to yeah. So there's a number of factors that actually contribute to weight gain. So first of all, there's changes in body composition. So from the level of your injury, then downwards, there's a loss of that lean muscle mass, which is really important for our metabolism. and there's an increase in that fat tissue, adipose tissue. And this lowers our resting metabolic rate. So our resting metabolic rate is how many calories that we are burning when we're just sitting in our wheelchair. So when our muscle tissue is dropping, then that's going to lower our resting metabolic rate, which means we actually need less calories. So medications is a big one too. Some of those nerve pain medications, antidepressant medications, some of those side effects are weight gain. So it's important to check your medications to see which one might actually be contributing to your weight gain. Obviously, reduced physical activity is another big one, and poor diets. So research shows that people that are living with a disability are more likely to be consuming processed foods, frozen foods, going through the drive-through, because they don't have the time or the energy or the resources to prepare like whole foods and whole food nutrition. Also, too, a lot of people are eating at their pre-injury diet patterns. So the same kind of portion sizes and the same amount of calories. So like I said, your resting metabolic rate has dropped, so you need less calories, and you really need to make that adjustment after you've had your injury. Like Joe said, there's a higher risk of nutrient deficiencies, and some of these deficiencies can contribute to weight gain. So for example, chromium, which is really important for blood sugar balance, can often be depleted. And when your blood sugars are off, that can affect weight as well. Changes in economic status, not having the financial resources to be purchasing a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, it can be an issue. And there's also a lot of hormonal changes that occur after an SCI. So there tends to be a drop in testosterone, which is usually due to the loss in muscle mass, and an increase in estrogen. So those hormonal imbalances can really also contribute to that increased weight and that increased mass around our belly area. Inflammation is a big one. Individuals with a spinal cord injury have chronic low-grade inflammation. And that is huge, and we're going to talk more about that in this presentation. So inflammation can cause depression, it can cause pain, and it also causes weight gain. So, and it also compromises the immune system. So reducing that inflammation and eating anti-inflammatory foods is really important for a number of reasons. And what's really specific to individuals with a spinal cord injury is they have a hard time processing carbohydrates, like processing those sugars and glucose. And what's the problem is the standard American diet, which is abbreviated for SAD, and that's just what it is loaded with like those refined carbs and sugars, which is really problematic, especially with an individual with spinal cord injury, because we just have such a hard time to break that down and process that. And that leads to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Thanks, Joe. So there's a number of health issues associated with excess weight. Obviously, there's increased stress on nerves and joints, and that can obviously contribute to pain. There's decreased circulation, increased inflammation, as well as fatigue, cardiovascular disease. Increased weight can compromise bowel and bladder routine, and it can also contribute to sleep and sleep apnea. And it's a vicious cycle, because if you have poor sleep, it disrupts your hormones and it causes you to crave more carbs and food during the day, which causes weight gain, and then that excess weight gain compromises your sleep. And poor sleep also compromises your immune system as well. Depression, there's a huge correlation between excess weight and depression, and part of that is because of those inflammatory markers that get released from our fat tissue can circulate, go up into the brain and cause depression. It reduces our immune system, places stress on our kidneys, also puts increased risk of pressure sores. Also being underweight can also put increased risk of pressure sores too. Obviously can contribute to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, and that also compromises the immune system. high blood pressure, fatty liver, hormone balances, difficulty breathing, increased risk of blood clotting, and also reduced life expectancy. So how many calories should we be consuming? So what's fortunate is that we have had research done, and hopefully Franklin can be able to send this PowerPoint to everyone after this, because there's a number of little calculations that you can do. So this is the ideal calorie calculation that was developed part of research for individuals with a paraplegia and a quadriplegia. So with a paraplegia, you need to be consuming 28 kilocalories per kg for ideal body weight per day. So say, for example, you weigh 150 pounds, so that equates to 60 kgs. So you times 60 kgs times 28 kilocalories. So that gives you 1,904 calories per day that you should be consuming. With quadriplegia, it's slightly less. So you need to times that by 23 kilocalories per day, and that will give you your ideal calorie calculator where you should be aiming for. So the next one is looking at what your ideal weight calculation is. And again, there's been research developed to determine appropriate weight for paraplegia and quadriplegia, both for male and female. So for the paraplegia male, you want to define your ideal weight by 110 pounds for each 5 feet in height, and then another 5 pounds for each inch. And then you adjust it for spinal cord injury adjustment for paraplegia. You want to minus that by 5 to 10% to get your ideal weight calculation. So with paraplegia female, it starts at 100 pounds, not 110 pounds for each 5 foot in height, and then add another 5 pounds for each inch after that. And again, minus that by 5 to 10%. With quadriplegia male, it's the same calculation, but you're minusing that by 10 to 15%, and the same with female. And then also too, you've all heard of the body mass index. So basically, this is a way to determine a person's risk of secondary health complications. So whether it be stroke, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, high blood pressure. So body mass index is really important, but it was designed for the able-bodied population and not for spinal cord injury. Again, research was done to make an adjustment for SCI. So what they've identified, so for the normal able-bodied population, a healthy BMI is between 19 to 24.9. But for spinal cord injury, it has to be below 22. Now, unfortunately, I know Franklin was saying that there's people on this call tonight that are underweight, but there's been no BMI identified for the underweight range. But if it's below 22, then it's obviously underweight. For overweight, for the able-bodied population, it's between 25 to 29.9. But for spinal cord injury adjustment, it's between 22 to 25. Again, anything over 25 is considered obese in the SCI population, but in the able-bodied population, it's over 30. So definitely needing to keep our BMIs at a slightly lower level than the able-bodied population.
Okay, so you might be wondering, we've touched on it a little bit about what the connection is between weight and immune function, and here it is. So our body systems communicate, interact, and influence each other. Now, normally, when we talk about body systems, like the nervous system or the endocrine system, which is your hormone system, or the immune system, we just talk about them individually because it's easier to identify, easier to understand. But in reality, each of these systems, every moment of every day, are constantly communicating with each other. And as such, when they're working well, they communicate well. But if you have dysfunction in one system, so dysfunction in the nervous system because of the spinal cord injury, it's going to influence and impact the other systems like your immune system and vice versa. And this is one of the reasons why we are so impacted by our immune system and our nervous system. So that's how it interacts. And here's specific relationships between increased weight and decreased immune function. So inflammation, Kylie's talked about it a bit here. Inflammation decreases immune function. We know that. There's lots of studies out there. We also know that people with spinal cord injuries have systemic inflammation for a variety of reasons, like stress, pain, and medication intake. Those are a few of the reasons. We also know that, as Kylie's just talked about, people with spinal cord injuries are prone to weight gain. Fat cells contribute to inflammation and in turn decrease our immunity. Weight gain also contributes to decreased mobility, and decreased mobility decreases immune function. And it goes back to what I was referring to a few moments ago about your lymphatic system. If you're not able to move it, it's really going to impair your immune function. Weight gain also contributes to pain, whether it's muscular pain, joint pain, even neuropathic pain. And we know that pain contributes to inflammation and in turn decreases immunity. Weight gain also increases risk of insulin resistance. And insulin is a highly inflammatory hormone. So increased insulin resistance and insulin contributes to inflammation, decreased immune function. So there's a whole bunch of reasons here why, when we talk about maintaining a good weight here, you're going to help maintain your immune system.
Okay, so let's get going with some specific goals with regards to nutrition and weight loss. Joe, we'll get to the first slide. So basically, we've tried to summarize like an overall weight loss plan. There's lots of factors that come into play. So this is sort of like the down and dirty that we're giving you today. But a lot of it's based on individuals and their, with regards to their secondary health complications, their age, etc. But overall, we want to look at reducing calories. Also, the types of calories that we consume is really important. We want to be consuming appropriate portion sizes. I know when I go down to the States and I go to a restaurant, the portion sizes are like out of this world. They're so big. We also want to adhere to the anti-inflammatory diet. And Joe and I were part of a study at Brock University here in Canada on implementing the anti-inflammatory diet with individuals with spinal cord injury. So I'm going to talk a bit more about that. Balancing blood sugars is huge. If you have unbalanced blood sugars, you have 3 times more difficulty losing weight. So this is a really good strategy to implement, especially because you have a hard time with that carbohydrate metabolism and processing sugars. You might be surprised to see that we've put here restrict fruit intake to 0 to 1 fruits a day, and I'll talk about that. Restricting grain intake to 0 to 1 servings a day. And what we want to look at is a realistic weight loss goal. So individuals with a spinal cord injury, we want that weight to be lost slowly. If you lose a lot of weight all at once, you could be losing that precious lean muscle mass, and we don't want you to be doing that. We want you to be losing the fat tissue, right? So realistic weight loss goal is between 0.5 to 1 pound a week. So caloric intake. So going back to that chart and looking to see what your ideal caloric intake is a really good starting point. And what's really good is to track your calories in the initial stages to see where you're at. So getting your phone and downloading like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, there's so many great apps out there just to see how many calories you are consuming. You might be surprised how quickly you're going over your recommended amount, especially if you're consuming some sugar sweetened beverages and things like that. Now, if you're following your caloric intake as recommended on the chart and you find you're not losing weight, then we recommend dropping your calories by 300 to 500 calories a day. But we only want you to do that once you look at the foods that you're consuming, making sure that you're getting rid of those processed foods, those refined grains like white bread, white rice, white pasta, and those sugar-based products, so your cakes, your cookies, your ice cream, your pastries. We don't want you to be reducing your calorie intake and still consuming those foods, right? Because those are really going to contribute to weight gain and a whole host of secondary health complications as well. And just remember, not all calories are treated as equal. So sometimes we see products that say that, oh, look, it's got no fat and it's low in calories, but it could be loaded in sugar. So you really have to be mindful of the foods that you're consuming, like 100 calories in an apple versus 100 calories in a soda drink. They're not treated as equal. There's a number of factors that come into play. Firstly, the apple has over 1,000 different nutrients, phytonutrients, vitamins, minerals. And a soda has high sugar, it has anti-nutrients, it can compromise our hormones, etc. So 100 calories from 2 different foods could actually mean 2 different things in the body. So just be mindful of that. So let's look at portion sizes and serving sizes. So when you're working with your nutritionist or your dietitian, and they're talking about how many servings do you have, it's always hard to know, well, what's considered a serving size. So I love that our hand is like a built-in comparison chart. So basically a fist is the size of your cup. So for vegetables, a fist or a cup of cooked vegetables is your fist. And obviously we want to do lots of salads, so that would be 2 fists for your salads. But we have a built-in protein monitor as well. So the palm of our hand is a size of our protein serving. So your chicken or your fish or your beef, you want it to be the size of your palm. You don't want it to be more than that. And also too, if you're consuming a lot of protein, that can actually be broken down into glucose in the body. So you want to be balancing that out with tons of like the vegetables, especially the dark green leafy vegetables and stuff like this. But this is another great chart that you can refer to when you're looking at your serving sizes. So I want to talk about the anti-inflammatory diet. This is really exciting. So we were part of the study at Brock University, and it was individuals with spinal cord injury, both paraplegia and quadriplegia, and we put them on the anti-inflammatory diet. And what they were doing is looking at those inflammatory markers or cytokines in the blood and looking how being on the anti-inflammatory diet impacted those inflammatory markers on the blood. But it also looked at how that inflammation impact on pain, depression, and sleep. And the participants were on the study for 3 months. And what they noticed is that the results were really significant. The inflammatory markers significantly dropped in the body. Their pain, depression, and sleep all significantly improved. In fact, what they found about depression scores is actually it was a greater success than that on people being on SSRIs. So it's a huge impact, this inflammation in our diet and in our bodies, how it can impact on a number of different areas. Now, the 2 big things with the anti-inflammatory diet, which might be quite out there for you. Like I said, the standard American diet is sad because it's a lot of processed food, but it's a lot of dairy and gluten. And so the anti-inflammatory diet that we put them on was getting rid of those white breads, white rice, white pasta, but it was also getting rid of all those gluten-based grains, which can act like a glue in our digestive system. Gluten, a lot of people have intolerances to gluten and may not be aware of it. It can compromise your digestion, can cause constipation, and just a lot of people reacted in a number of different ways, physically, mentally, psychologically. So we want to focus on gluten-free whole grains. So brown rice pasta, quinoa is great. That's a complete protein. So great if any of you are vegetarians out there. Although buckwheat has wheat in its name, it's actually gluten-free. So focusing on those kind of grains is much better to support reduce inflammation in the body and just overall they're nutrient dense and they're high in fiber. So beans, baked beans, white beans, broad beans, and soy. We got our participants to remove those because, again, they can be inflammatory, they can have issues with digestion, and some of them are quite highly processed and genetically modified. So what we're recommending is lentils, black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, and hummus. And Joe and I love recommending these because they're cheap, they're cost effective, they're really high in fiber, which is really good for balancing blood sugars. They're really high in antioxidants. So it's really important to combat those free radicals and support our immunity. And they've got protein in them. So combining that with another vegetarian protein can make a complete protein. So they're just very nutrient dense and they're cost effective. So great for people that have difficulties, restrictions with their budget. So sweeteners, obviously removing sugar because sugar is inflammatory to the body, compromises our immune system, and with spinal cord injury, just have a hard time processing it. But we also want to get rid of artificial sweeteners, which might be a surprise to a lot of you guys out there. And I'm going to talk about that in a short bit. So the best sweeteners that we recommend is stevia. So stevia, sometimes people can't tolerate because it's got that sort of metallic taste. So the liquid one sort of gets rid of that metallic taste, but stevia is great. So put that in your coffee or your tea and stuff like that. Xylitol, they're both really low in the glycemic index. And honey and maple syrup. They're a little bit higher in the glycemic index, but they have B vitamins, they have nutrients, so they're a much better choice. You can eat all your vegetables except for corn, because a lot of corn is genetically modified, eggplant, and pickles, because they can be quite inflammatory. And the really, really big ones to get rid of is the processed meats, the frankfurters, the hot dogs, the deli meats, the cold cuts. Sorry, guys, bacon as well. But you want to be focusing on lean, good quality meats like chicken, red meat, fish, seafood, getting a lot of those good fats into your diet, which is anti-inflammatory. You also want to get rid of cow's milk and cow's milk products. So a lot of that cow's milk has got a lot of hormones in it. They've had a lot of genetically modified feed. A lot of people have a hard time with processing the casein and the whey, the proteins found in cow's milk. And also too, 75% of the population is lactose intolerant. So a lot of people have a hard time breaking down the sugar lactose, which is found in cow's milk. So better options are Greek plain yogurt, staying away from the fruit flavored yogurts because they're loaded with sugar. So doing plain Greek yogurt and just popping fresh berries in there instead. Your goat cheese and your feta cheese, your sheep cheese, they're all better quality dairy. Your cottage cheese, and definitely butter is a much better choice than margarine. It's got nutrients in it. It's got good fats. Whereas margarine is highly processed, it's got trans fats, hydrogenated oils, it's not good. So staying away from the canola oil and all those processed oils is really important. You want to focus on olive oil, flaxseed oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. I just want to say that if you are cooking with oils at high heat, the best oils are avocado and coconut oil. If you cook olive oil at a high heat, it becomes rancid and it actually has a negative effect on us, not a benefit. So definitely try and incorporate those good omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory, the olive oil, the flax oil, and the avocado oil. Coconut oil is very good for energy. So if you're someone that's struggling with fatigue, it's very good providing usable energy. So this is the diet that we implemented with our clients. Now, unfortunately, one thing we didn't do was we didn't look at their weight changes, but there was some profound weight changes that happened. It's just that we didn't collect that information in the study, which was a bit of a shame.
I think it was on average between 10 and 20 pounds, which is huge, right?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
Huge. But yeah, we should have recorded it specifically.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the one you're probably going, what? lot. So you want to restrict your fruit intake. So restrict it to low glycemic fruits. And the reason being is fruit has sugar in it. I mean, it's a much better sugar than a lot of the other sugars, but it has the sugar fructose. And research shows that fructose in high amounts can actually increase inflammation and contribute to metabolic syndrome. So the best fruits we recommend is berries. I love berries. They're super high in fiber, really nutrient dense, really, it's one of the highest in antioxidants, so really good for your immune system, really good for combating free radical damage, which is huge following trauma. So if you can incorporate berries into your day, like that would be really important. Put them in your salad, put them in a smoothie, or just eat them on their own. If you're someone that likes to snack on candies, this would be a great switch out for you. The other one is orchard fruits. So these are your apples, your pears, your nectarines, your peaches. They're also low in the glycemic index. The only problem I need to add is they're also part of the dirty dozen. So they're highly sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. So that'd be one area, if you can go organic, that would be a good way to go. And also your citrus fruits, your lemons, your limes, your oranges, your grapefruits. Just be mindful with grapefruits because some medications are contraindicated with, grapefruit is contraindicated with some medications. So just be mindful of that. And unfortunately, you have to avoid all those nice tropical fruits like your papaya, your pineapple and mango. They're much higher on the glycemic index. Now, if you do really love these and you don't want to give them up, then I would pair the fruit with a fat, because if you pair those together, like have maybe some papaya with some nuts or some avocado, because if you pair it with the fats, it's actually going to slow that glucose release and slow that insulin down and make it better for your blood sugars. And also the dried fruit is high in sugars as well. But dried fruits is something that we would recommend for people that are looking for weight gain. So that's that slide.
Oh, it's stuck again. Hold on. Why is it sticking? Oh, dear.
Probably take us right to the end once it clicks in.
There you go. It's weird. Okay.
Okay. No surprise, we've got to get lots of vegetables into our diet. So consume at least 5 servings of vegetables a day. And there's a number of reasons why vegetables are so good. First of all, they're low in the glycemic index. They're low in sugar. So they're going to help that decrease that risk of insulin resistance. It's going to slowly release that little bit of glucose that's in vegetables into the system. They're also really high in fiber, which is going to help you to feel full faster. It's also going to help to regulate your bowels better if you're having troubles with your bowel routine. And fiber is also very important because it actually helps to bind to toxins that get eliminated through your body. So for example, if you're on a lot of medications, your liver has to break down those medications to excrete them. And if you are constipated, then those hormonal byproducts, those medications that are broken down, if they don't get flushed out quick enough, then they can get reabsorbed back into the body and go around and cause inflammation. They can stimulate nerve endings, causing pain. So really getting that fiber is really important. Obviously, vegetables are really nutrient dense. They're high in a variety of different vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, and they're low in calories. And definitely focusing on those dark green leafy vegetables, but because I know so many people don't get those. So again, putting spinach or kale in your smoothies, making a salad, cooking some vegetables up with your omelette just to get those increased vegetables in is really important. Dark green leafy vegetables are very alkalinizing to the body. If you have a very acidic pH level, which is if you have a diet high in sugar, dairy, refined grains, that can be a problem, a breeding ground for pathogens such as bacteria and viruses. So you really want to alkalinize those body with those dark leafy greens. You also have to be mindful. There's a couple of vegetables that are high in that are going to spike blood sugars, and that's like your carrots and your beets. Super healthy, but they are high in and will spike blood sugars, and the starchy vegetables such as parsnips and white potatoes. So I just thrown a little bit of research here. So consuming 8 or more daily servings of colorful vegetables, and it is really important to eat the rainbow because you've got different antioxidants and nutrients in the different colored vegetables. Just eating 8 servings for 4 weeks would significantly reduce concentrations of cytokines, those inflammatory markers in the body. And the study noted that the vegetable antioxidants might be the reason why it helps to reduce that cytokine activity. So if you eat your vegetables, it reduces inflammation. Reducing inflammation will help you with a better immune system, help you to better manage your weight, help with pain, etc. So this is a really important takeaway for you. So let's have a look at balancing blood sugars. So like I mentioned before, if you have unbalanced blood sugars, you have 3 times more difficulty losing weight. So let's have a look at the top one. I hope you can see it clearly. So that green bar is our normal blood sugar level. So if you have in the morning that little red bar, if you're having like cereal, and a lot of cereals are refined and loaded with sugar, and you have some orange juice, or you just have a coffee and miss breakfast altogether, you're going to have blood sugar spikes, and it's going to take you out of that normal green bar that we want to be in. And when your blood sugar spike like that, you've got all this glucose running around in your bloodstream, so your pancreas has to go, I have to excrete a whole bunch of insulin to deal with all this glucose, to get it into the cell to do its work. But if there's too much glucose, then that glucose gets packaged into fat cells, making the fat cells bigger and making us bigger. And the problem with blood sugar spikes is that it actually causes mood swings, brain fog, can't think clearly. And what comes up must come crashing down. And your blood sugar is going to go below that healthy level. You're going to not be wanting to go for the carrots and hummus. You're going to want to go for the cookies or the candy. You're going to have increased fatigue, and you're going to have brain fogs. But what's really interesting is when blood sugars drop, your body naturally produces the stress hormone cortisol to try and get your blood sugars back up. The problem with cortisol in high amounts, if you have unstable blood sugars, or if you have prolonged stress, like a lot of us do, cortisol in high amounts can actually cause muscle and bone to break down, which is huge for individuals with SCI because we're already at risk of osteoporosis, and we're already having issues with losing muscle mass. So managing your balancing your blood sugars is really important for those factors. Also, high cortisol can interfere with the production of neurotransmitters to help us think, to help us be motivated, to help us feel happy. But it also compromises our immune system, and high cortisol is responsible for giving us that nice tire around our belly. So again, you've just have this perpetuating yo-yo cycles throughout the day. So if you start your day with breakfast, having like an omelette with some vegetables, or some plain Greek yogurt with some berries, or maybe doing some like a smoothie, switching out that coffee for some green tea. Green tea has some amazing fat burning properties. It's going to help keep you in that nice steady blood sugar level. It's going to be a little bit of rise, but it's not going to take you out of that normal range. So you're not going to have that fat storage, and you're going to have that steady mood and energy throughout the day. Your cortisol levels are going to reduce. You're not going to have those cravings, so you're better able to manage your diet, balance your blood sugars, and you're just going to be able to think clearly. So this is a real good takeaway as well about balancing blood sugars. Not only can it help with weight, but just a number of other factors as well. So how do you balance blood sugars? So definitely try and eat within 1 hour upon rising. If you leave it later than that, then that can start causing those blood sugar fluctuations. You want to eat 3 small meals a day and 1 snack if you need to. Ideally, if your goal is weight loss, you don't want to be having that snack before bed or after dinner. If your goal is weight gain, then definitely having that snack before you go to bed is a much better way, healthier way to help put on like healthy weight. You want to avoid stimulants such as caffeine, the energy drinks, the pop, the coffee, the chocolate. Try and focus on decaffeinated teas as well. And obviously, no surprise, get rid of the sugar. the cereals, the refined cereals, the cookies, the muffins, the candy, the cake. I feel like such a party pooper, but obviously that's what you have to do. And you want to have to avoid those refined grains, the white rice, the white pasta, the white bread. The reason why it's white is because the fiber's been taken out of it, and so it's going to spike your blood sugars so quickly. If the fiber was kept in it when you're eating those whole grain breads and whole grain pastas, it's going to slow that insulin release and slow that glucose as well. You want to avoid artificial sweetness, which I'm going to talk about, and you really want to combine your meals with like a good protein, such as an omelette, with your complex carbs, such as your vegetables, and some good fats, such as a bit of avocado or olive oil, etc. So let's have a little bit more look at those sugars and artificial sweeteners. So the World Health Organization recommends no more than 25 grams or 6 teaspoons a day, and that's for females. For males, it's 36 grams or 9 teaspoons a day. But this is developed for the able-bodied population and not for individuals with spinal cord injury. So like I talked about before, with people with SCI, they have a hard time processing that glucose. So the 6 teaspoons a day, Joe and I would recommend would be the maximum that you should be reaching. So the problems with sugars, they can cause obesity, blood sugar imbalances. They are huge for inflammation. They can also suppress the immune system. So vitamin C and sugar, so vitamin C is really important for the immune system. They can compete for absorption. And like I said, sugar can, when it's consumed with vitamin C, it's creating free radical damage. That vitamin C needs to be dealing with that free radical, neutralizing those free radicals, and it takes it away from doing those immune boosting properties. Sugars interfere with sleep. It contributes to hormonal imbalances, insulin resistance, and the big one, which people often think is fat is the cause, it's actually the sugars, cause high prevalence of high triglycerides, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart disease. So let's talk about the artificial sweeteners, Jay. Because this is probably a surprise for a lot of you. You're probably thinking, oh, I'm switching out my Coke to my Diet Coke and I should be good. But the research is coming now about artificial sweeteners is that it actually can stimulate appetite. It can increase carbohydrate cravings and can actually stimulate fat storage. And what they're actually finding is artificial sweeteners can actually cause greater weight gain than sugar, which is a big surprise. And research has shown that aspartame, one of the artificial sweeteners, also worsens insulin sensitivity. So like I said, this might be a big takeaway for you, is getting rid of those artificial sweeteners and focusing on healthy alternatives. So stevia, xylitol, raw honey. Raw honey is way better than processed honey. You know, if you're a big pop fan, maybe trying to switch to sparkling water is a great option. I've even seen stevia sweetened pop out there in the grocery stores as well, which I'm sure they must have in America too. But definitely you want to get rid of those. So let's have a look at some healthy alternatives, some quick switch outs. So again, getting rid of the sugar and doing stevia, xylitol, raw honey. Okay, ketchup is an interesting one, and salsa. So research has shown that salsa can stimulate your metabolism by up to 20%. So salsa is a really good weight loss food. Now, the problem with ketchup is it's loaded with sugar. I don't know, you should go and check after this call tonight. Check your ketchup bottle because the ingredients are listed from the most to the least. And I've seen ketchup bottles where it's water, then it's sugar, then it's tomatoes. So a lot of times there's more sugar than tomatoes in the ketchup bottle. So this is a really good switch out for you to help lose weight. Getting rid of mayonnaise and focusing on plain Greek yogurt, switching out margarine for butter, white rice for brown rice, the white pastas and white grains for the whole grains, and switching out coffee for green tea. So there's a bunch of research on green tea. It has amazing fat burning properties. It's a great way to get your water intake for the day. It's really high in antioxidants. If you love your coffee, green tea has a little bit of caffeine to give you that kick, but it also has a calming amino acid in it called L-theanine, so it doesn't give you the jitters. But there's also research to show that green tea can actually help with long-term sustained weight loss as well. So definitely try and incorporate green tea into your diet. Simple switch out, jam on white toast. It's refined, gluten, inflammatory, lots of sugar. Focusing on avocado, on whole grain toast, maybe put some smoked salmon in there for omega-3s. And getting rid of the store-bought salad dressings and making your own with olive oil, lemon juice, balsamic vinegar. But again, I have to do a big shout out for apple cider vinegar. Again, there's actually a lot of research on apple cider vinegar helping to burn fat. Do a tablespoon in a glass of water and drink that, or mix it in to make a salad dressing. And it's a great way to actually, it's shown to lower triglycerides, lose circumference around your waist, lose body fat percentage, and lose weight overall. So definitely incorporate apple cider vinegar into your diet. Yes, you, Joe.
Oh, I'm doing this. I'm sorry. I thought I was doing the next one. I was starting here. Okay. So you definitely want to make sure you're getting good protein sources. Kylie talked about good protein sources, bad ones. So what protein does, it takes a long time in your stomach to be broken down and digest. So that can actually help balance your blood sugar levels. And again, because it's in your stomach for so long to be getting broken down, whether it's any kind of red meat, fish, or chicken. And what that does is, sorry, someone's trying to get into the conversation here. There we go. Is it actually can reduce cravings that way because it makes you feel full longer. So you eat less, and so you eat less calories. And it's also a thermogenic food, which I'm going to talk about in another slide in a few down. It helps promote fat burning while conserving lean muscle mass. So you want, we've lost a lot of our main muscle through our paralysis. So you want to maintain as much muscle in your top half as possible. Eating protein will help maintain your lean muscle mass. And you want to, again, as Kylie talked about balancing blood sugars, one of the best ways to do that is to make sure you have protein at each meal. So your breakfast, lunch, and your dinner, having that protein throughout the day, balance the blood sugars. But go back to that protein chart and that serving size chart that Kylie showed you before and stick to your portion sizes. So stick to the palm of your hand. We offer a built-in protein meter. Otherwise, if you have too much protein, it's really easy. Often when you do go to restaurants, they give you double the amount of steak or double the amount of chicken, and your body can turn that into fat. So stick to portion sizes. No excuse, you've got your built-in protein meter right there. So lots of good healthy fish, chicken, turkey, but also nuts and seeds and legumes. Your favorite beans and peas are good sources of protein as well. All right. And I'm jammed again, so hang on, give me 1 second. All right, now this may seem a bit counterintuitive, but you actually want to increase your intake of healthy fats. Good fats help burn bad fats, just because it makes your cell function that much better. The nice thing about fats is it makes our food taste good as well. So if you have some healthy fats with all of your main meals, it's actually going to help curb cravings because you're going to have the satiety. You're going to feel satisfied by eating a meal that has some healthy fats in it. And because healthy fats, they are higher in calories, but they will help suppress appetite because they make you feel full faster. And the nice thing too is they help balance those blood sugars and control insulin release. As Kylie talked about, it's up and down of our blood sugars, and it's the up and down of the insulin that contributes to weight gain. So eating lots of nice healthy fats will help control that insulin balance. So when we talk about healthy fats, we're talking about fish oils, salmon, nuts, seeds, walnuts, almonds, sesame seeds, great fats. Eggs as well have great fats in that yolk. I often have people say, oh, I had an egg white omelet. And they think they're doing a really good healthy thing. And I always think, no, get that good yolk in there. It's got healthy fats and actually great fats for your brain as well. Olives, olive oil, and as Kylie's mentioned a couple times, avocado oil are amazing. So pick and choose which of these you like and try and get them into at least your weekly diet for sure, if not your daily diet. And the next thing is here's those thermogenic foods. So what that basically means is some foods that you eat, like salsa, that Kylie already mentioned, and like celery, it takes more energy for your body to actually break them down and digest, and they have calories. So by filling up on things like celery as a snack, having that salsa on any of your favorite foods will take a long time to digest and actually fill you up, and you'll eat less and burn calories at the same time. So it's a win-win right there. So we've talked about all the different foods that you need to help lose weight, balance blood sugars, balance insulin levels. There are a couple of supplements we also want to talk about that can help with the weight loss process. And the first one here is called Chromium. So chromium is a micromineral. It's in our soil. It's all natural. When our fruits and vegetables grow, that chromium is absorbed from the soil into our fruits and vegetables, and then it gets into our stomachs, into our bloodstream. And what it does is it makes your cells more sensitive to insulin. So then if there's any sugar in your blood, it gets into your cells to be utilized as fuel instead of being stored as fat. So there are chromium supplements. A lot of weight loss programs out there have like a magic trick, a magic bean, a magic pill. Usually it's chromium. That's the magic trick here. So what you want to look at taking is 200 to 400 mcgs a day. Okay, so you want to do maybe 200 in the morning, 200 in the evening, separate it so you're helping to balance those blood sugars throughout the day. If you have prediabetes or you're diabetic and you are taking medication to help balance your blood sugars, do not take chromium. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. Please check with your health provider physician first before starting any new supplements. If you're not taking any blood sugar medication, you can introduce some chromium into your weight loss plan. And going back to those healthy fats I was talking about, good fats help burn bad fats, you might want to also consider an omega-3 fatty acid. So these will help burn fats, but they're also beautifully a natural anti-inflammatory. So it's going to simultaneously help support your immune function. It's also going to help simultaneously support your brain function, your nerve function, helps lubricate the bowels, soften stool for their bowel routines. It can help with joint pain as well, or any kind of pain. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. So this is a win-win here. You really want to get your omega-3s in there. And what we recommend is 2 to 4 1,000 milligram pills of omega-3 a day. Start maybe with just the 2, one at breakfast, one with dinner. Do that for a week, because some people find that can actually cause some stomach upset. If you're fine with that, then you can move up to 4 a day. But again, consult with your healthcare provider, because omega-3s are natural blood thinners. So if, for example, you are taking warfarin as a blood thinner, you do not want to take omega-3s on top of that, okay? So we're going to show you a client case, and this is a client who did all of the things that Kylie and I have just gone through and had some good results. So here's a client case. He was 50 years old, C567 incomplete quadriplegic. He was 3 years post-injury and had gained 40 pounds in those 3 years and was very upset, wanted to lose it. And also, with a lot of people who gain a lot of weight, he developed a pressure sore on his coccyx because of that extra weight, okay, on his system. So we did everything that Kylie and I have just gone through, and here are his results. In 20 weeks, he lost 40 pounds. This is huge. That was a very, very quick turnaround of losing this weight. What was interesting is he did this weight loss in conjunction with working out 2 hours a day on a hand cycle, which he was doing 5 days a week. But he was already, before starting the weight loss program, he was already working out this much, and the weight wasn't coming off just with exercise alone. When he did them both together, then the weight just melted off. But the bonus effects of this was it increased his energy levels, and his transfers were easier, and it also helped boost his self-esteem. So it was great to see just how quickly he lost his weight, and he was feeling so much better. Now, we've been asked to also talk about tips for weight gain, because many people lose a lot of weight post-injury and have a lot of trouble putting it back on. And it's really easy to reach for fast foods, junk foods, comfort foods, pizzas, cakes, and cookies, all the sugar-laden things, to get that weight back on, but they're not healthy. And for so many reasons, as Kylie and I have just been talking about, of what sugar can do, and unhealthy fats has caused inflammation and weaken your immune function, which you don't want to do. what you want to look at doing is focus on healthy, high-calorie, nutrient-dense foods that are going to help you put that weight on in a really healthy way. So what we've done here is list a lot of foods that you can introduce to your daily, weekly diet to help get your weight back on. And something Kylie mentioned earlier is if you want to help the process of eat a lot of these foods, whatever your favorite ones are, late at night before you go to bed. That will also help pack that weight on. So hopefully this list here is helpful for you.